All I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, is holy son of a mudskuffer. Wow. I am yeah, that was quite a final season finale of The Mandalorian. We have the dark saber. We have Slave One returning. We have Luke freaking Skywalker, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Um, so much to talk about this episode, and let's just get straight into it. That opening scene, um, seeing the Lambda class shuttle again, that was cool.
Yeah.
Um,
That was my
nice
favorite.
little,
That was my favorite action figure that I had growing up, was like the
yeah,
shuttle, where you put
yeah,
people in the cockpit and stuff like that. So I always
yes,
loved seeing those on screen.
Strong Return of the Jedi vibes.
yeah.
Awesome.
And I loved the callback whenever they board the ship, that sense of dread of seeing the Slave One come, them about to be boarded.
How
Almost
gorgeous
was
that shot.
yeah. It was almost a throwback to see the rebels in a New Hope, and the anticipation and the fear when the Imperial stormtroopers were about to board the Tantive 4. You kind of got that same type of vibe of them sitting there like, okay, what's going to happen?
Yep.
And I love the callback from the fact that the Imperial officer was on the Death Star, had served on the Death Star.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen a lot of that in canon. Other people who saw it from, I mean, you see it from the novels and stuff, but on screen, you don't see it a lot.
Yeah. And from his point of view of that, the fact that he had friends on the Death Star.
Right. Yeah. Probably he was like on vacation or off on a different shift. Like, he could have been there that day. Maybe he was on a shuttle on his way there. It was a close call for him. So of course that's traumatic, even if he was a little psycho about it.
And I like how he said, I was on the Death Star, and she's, which one? Like that was cool.
Like,
yeah, she's quick. I do.
And the fact that we now know what that tear tattoo is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a badass.
No, I really love that Kara tattoo has been hiding in plain sight, sort of. It's definitely something I noticed. It's definitely something I love. Like, I love tattoos.
Yeah.
I would love to, cosplay as her. But knowing that that's what it's for makes me, even though it's a fictional universe, I'm like, oh, well, that's like a sign of respect. Like, I can't just wear that, as a costume almost. Like, it's so, that's really impactful that's, means you're from Alderaan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she just
that was pretty
cooked his face.
Oh,
one of the most amazing execution style blaster shots I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. No.
And how quickly that doctor turned. And the fact that we finally get confirmation that he was a clone engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always been a little back and forth, right? Like, it's interesting to me. He seems like he's got ethics, even though he's like a, Imperial doctor. Yeah. In the first season, even too, keeping Grogu alive when maybe the client or whatever wasn't going to. But I feel weird about that character. I want more. Yeah. I want to know more than what we got in this finale. Wrapping that up. Even that little tease we got in an episode with the hologram and stuff. I still, maybe just because I am a scientist, I want more about the science there.
Yeah.
So maybe in one of the series.
Yeah. He did turn pretty fast though, as far, which makes me think that, maybe it wasn't about, he wasn't necessarily all in with the Empire or anything like that. He was just a scientist. He was just like, whoever gives me the most,
Yeah, I mean, we get this with Galen Erso. We get this with Galen Erso too, right? Maybe they have his family. Maybe they, or maybe it is just a matter of funding. The rebels aren't putting a lot of money into genetic research, and he, wants to follow his passions. It's interesting to me to have him sort of waffle and just go with whoever's in charge that day.
Yeah. He's like, oh well, you're not going to kill me, so I guess I'm with you guys now.
Yeah, I'm curious where he ended up though. Like there's lots we didn't get, but like, does he stick around with the Mandalorians who are going to keep the cruiser? Does he go do they just they've killed everybody else on the ship? What do they do with that guy? So
He's not. You haven't seen the last of them because we never got a resolution on those tanks, those clones that were being grown,
right?
In the episode on Navarro. So
right,
you haven't seen the last of him. He's coming back. Yeah.
Right.
Now, one thing I noticed when they got to the planet where they met back up with Bo-Katan and I can't remember the other character's name that was with her.
Sidekicks don't talk.
They don't matter. They don't matter. Yeah.
They're all right. Who cares? The third
I don't know if you noticed,
right? Like
Mandalorian.
But did you notice the symbol on the factories? There was a big symbol that was painted on the factory. That was not the Imperial symbol. No, that was the Republic. That was the Old Republic.
The Old Republic symbol, yeah.
Yeah, which meant that those factories have been around for a long time. It was probably a good place to hide out.
Did they say what planet that was? I don't think they did.
Or not.
I don't remember that they did. And
I don't want to say it is, but it looked an awful lot like Lothal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of. I don't want to say that it was. But
yeah, I don't think it said, and I am curious. I was like, did Mando know where they were this whole time? You know, because we never saw them split up in the episode earlier this season. So to me, I just assumed they split up. He had no idea how to find them. They'd pop back into each other's lives at some point, but like clearly he knew where to find them. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah. I love the fact that they knew, you know, once they heard Boba's voice, that they knew like, okay, and even calling him out, you know, they say this, you know, armor belonged to my father, and her saying, you mean your donor?
That's
like,
cold.
It's
cold, man. That was
No, that was definitely interesting. I mean, in general, I loved all of the like, you know, big talk in the bar scene.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. Also, even I like that every planet we go to, first we go to the bar. That's you know, that sounds right to me as like someone who's
been Mandalorians walk into a bar. Yeah.
Right, you get to a new place, check out the watering hole.
I did see one person made a video that kind of pointed something out. Where was the guy?
Yeah.
That was with them. That I could just picture him coming out of the bathroom and be like, guys.
Right.
Guys.
I like that even better.
I am not paying for this.
Yeah, I like that even better that he was there and just, you know, went for.
He was in the bathroom. They come.
First three-way blind
date.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. So.
Leaving the bar tab.
But seeing Boba and Mandalorian B going at it was, and seeing how evenly matched they kind of were. I mean, mirror for mirror, the flamethrowers at each other was just. That was cool.
Yeah. No, I like, you know, that of course they wouldn't get along, you know, even, you know, the having the armor and all feeling, you know, beholden to the same thing doesn't mean they're going to get along. And if nothing else, I feel like they wrote the guy out of it just so they could have that scene with the 4 women, you know, sort of taking out, you know, all the crew and stuff like that on the light cruiser later. So if that's why they wrote him out, I don't know, but they could have just written him in and then killed him off. I did feel like, this is skipping around, but I did feel like someone should have died on our hero side.
We all died a little inside.
I'm so used to there being a little bit more at stake. Like that was a really dangerous mission. You know, how many dark troopers were involved, and like everyone's fine.
Yeah, but one X-Wing showed up, so we're saved, right?
I will get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I loved how they set it up with the slave one coming in and looking like it was really attacking, and then then using the shuttle to block the path so that no more TIE fighters could get out.
Yeah,
that was a cool bit of movement.
Yeah,
to see a shuttle being used strategy other than just
landing.
You know, it was it was cool.
And I love the fact that Boba just left, that because this was you know, he played his part, you know, as far as that, and then it's like, okay, I'm gone.
I mean, he clearly comes back, right? Because he ends up with Fennec again. But I did wonder, like, is he ever coming back? Which, considering, I think it was one of you guys got it in my head that he might be the one to die, you know, because now Mando needs a new ship. So I was worried for him a little bit. So I kind of liked that he just took off. I'm like, okay, well, he's safe at least wherever he is. Also,
he's gone.
Can you imagine the horrible timing of that? With, you know, I mean, we just lost Jeremy Bullock this week. Who played Boba Fett. Can you imagine how badly that would have been received
same day they killed off.
Like I figured, I think like 3 days before he died, and Jon Favreau went, shit, we have to do some like quick reshoots real quick, cut that scene out. Just he didn't even come back. That's fine, just let it go.
Yeah, an animated sequence for a couple of scenes.
You know what? We'll make them think. We'll make them think we weren't going to kill him off. Just announce some like BS Boba Fett show real quick, and then we're good.
Yeah. No, I really, because I did think about that, because like I said, I think one of you guys planted that seed, and I did think someone was going to die. I'm glad it wasn't Fennec. I kind of thought it was going to be her, because they just announced that she's going to be a voice of that character in like one of the prequel shows. So I was like, oh, well, if they're going to put her in a prequel show, they'll, kill her off on this one.
Yeah, it looks like she's going to be in the Bad Batch.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Looks, yeah.
When we were talking about the shuttle and the Slave One, I mean, I'm really not surprised that Moff Gideon clearly knew this was like a trap, right?
Oh, yes.
But like,
he knew from the second.
He's going to know her voice. The Empire's got to recognize Slave One. Like, why wasn't someone else talking? Why was it it seemed a little bit like, well, of course they figured it out, which I guess they didn't care, because once they were on the ship, it didn't matter, but it just.
Yeah, once they were on, Yeah.
So.
Let's talk about that. I mean, the minute they landed on that ship, the action was just nonstop. It was
just the girl power scene.
Yeah.
Girl kicking ass. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
I really liked the Mandalorians like falling off the side.
Drove off, right. And I was like, oh, they're dipping out, you pansies. And then then it made total sense.
Yeah. Although those
cool how they were on that same wavelength though, and it was just reflex to. Yeah,
and also Fennec and Cara backing each other up, when her gun jammed. Like there was just
I love that.
Like a gelling of that group. I loved it.
And that seems so real with her cussing at the gun and bringing up the new cuss word of new Star Wars cuss word of son of a.
Yeah, I love my Scott. I no longer have to resort to Nerf herder. I have so much more now.
Blast, Carabat. Yes, we got a bunch of them. So, yeah. We need to figure out like what the real world version of those would be like what would Dank Ferrick be? Like what would the
I mean, I don't want to give an explicit rating.
Do we want to go there? Yeah.
Yeah.
FCC is going to be all over
comments,
FCC is going to be all over us.
Right, exactly. I do really like, and he's talking about that scene where they're, walking across, the OSHA, the lack of OSHA, the safety violations in the universe.
No hand railings.
Railings on nothing.
What is that one? Star Wars, no hand railings.
That one especially is like just over some ray shield. Like they kill a stormtrooper and he just falls into space.
Yeah.
Why? What is wrong with this? And then like in the sequence with the dark troopers or whatever, when they're coming out of their little compartments, it's like liquid nitrogen hoses like flying around.
Amazing sequence.
Those are not those, but I still, because I work in a lab or something like that, I'm like, oh man, we would get fined for that sort of stuff.
Well, it's the Empire, I don't think regulations and.
Yeah, I guess.
That big of a deal.
The higher ups kind of went MIA.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years before, so they're not really around.
Yeah.
No, these dark troopers. You brought up that scene where you start seeing these dark troopers come out of their cryo. Amazing scene. The techno music they used, the way the shots jumped up as they panned. It just gave it this dangerous, just oh god, it was so cool to see. I mean, because you guys remember how we were freaking out the night they did the episode where they teased the dark troopers for the first time. We all lost our minds. Lost our minds. And then to see what they're actually capable of in this episode, I've been calling them the T-1138s of the Star Wars universe as a little Terminator reference. But yeah, they are insanely cool. They better make a Black Series figure of these things. I swear they better, because I want to build an army of them.
There was even a little bit of a Terminator, slight Terminator reference with the way that one dark trooper stuck his hand through it.
How amazing was that? Oh God, love those.
And I got to tell you, that Beskar is something else, because you saw the back of his helmet just going into the bulkhead as he was just like boom, boom, boom.
Did anyone else get Game of Thrones flashbacks watching Pedro Pascal being like bashed into something repeatedly?
Like, do not take off your helmet. Do not take off your helmet. It does not end well for you.
God. But think about that. That's what that Dark Trooper was willing to do to somebody. Had he not been wearing the helmet,
yeah.
I mean, cherry cobbler. Like, it would have been over at that point. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was in the military, so I don't have a filter when it comes to graphic content stuff like that.
No, that's I gotcha. But yeah, no, those Dark Troopers were scary. Having no experience with them other than the Mandalorian, like they are really spooky. And even the way they set up, like, I mean, obviously when he evac'd them, I'm like, well, they can fly in space. They'll be back. But
yeah, I didn't think about that till later on. I'm like,
yeah. Even the way they set that up was really spooky, you know, like, oh, we're being boarded, you know, how many life forms? None. Bum, bum, bum. Like, just everything about them is very spooky.
Yeah.
So even for not, you know, fangirling out at them because I hadn't seen them before, they make a really big impression, those Dark Troopers.
Yeah, they do. They're a great villain because they have no feeling, they have no emotion. They're just mindless drones who
and they even canonized the fact that they were the phase 3, which means there was no human inside of them anymore. Because even in Dark Forces, there was phase 1, 2, and 3, and by the time they got to 3, there was no human in them anymore. Okay. They were all droids. Yeah. So the fact they said they canonized that these are phase 3 is oh God, man! I love seeing one of my favorite video games of all time being brought to life. It's amazing.
Yeah. What did you think of the fact whenever Mando finally got to the prison cell and was confronted by Gideon, and Gideon was like, hey, I got, basically says, I'll give you the child. I got what I wanted. That he was like, okay.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it can't be this easy.
Right. Clearly it was a trap, but also like,
well, yeah, but I'm talking about the fact that Mando was like, hey, I don't care. You do whatever you want to these other guys. I just want the kid.
Yeah. I mean,
that's all I care about. I don't care about your plans. I don't care about what you've got planned to do. I just care about.
As soon as Gideon started stepping around behind him, I knew. As soon as he started to walk as Din Djarin walked towards the child, no, this is it. And then, game on, dude.
No, this is what
I love the fact that this is something that you didn't see with the Ahsoka fight, but I don't know if it's just the way that the dark saber was made. But if you notice, whenever Din Djarin would block it with the Beskar spear, you'd see that red heating up on that. That was cool. That little effect of like it's not cutting through, but you can tell it's so hot that it's just.
Yeah, I did like if they were going to write in that Beskar holds up even to that, which, by the way, maybe they should have made the Death Star out of Beskar, but we can talk about that, some other
time. My God, can you imagine? You'd have Mandalorians swarming that thing. You'd have they would have had no problem choosing a leader after that, because they'd have been like, let's pick a guy and just go for him, because
true.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
But I did like that they at least put, it heating up with the dark saber. Like, I want to see a little bit of weakness, just that little bit was enough to be like, okay, this is real, quote unquote, material.
It's not adamantium, like what the actual, like
unobtainium, like whatever else you just, decide is
vibranium,
ever. So but that was an intense scene. The Moff Gideon in this episode didn't seem as scary to me. Like, he was definitely just like exposition, like he was always monologuing, and you're like, why didn't they like put duct tape over this guy's face? And then you're like, oh, he's telling the audience all of these things. That's why they didn't silence him. He didn't have much more of it. Now, I wanted him to be a little bit more interesting.
Now, one thing that I kind of found maybe a slight plot hole for is when he walks in with the dark saber onto the bridge and tries to hand it to Bo-Katan. Now, in Rebels, when Sabine she took it right away. There was like no hesitation. Like, okay, sure, why not? Yeah, I got the dark saber now. But this time, they wrote it so that she couldn't take it because she had to win it in combat.
I may have an explanation for this.
Okay.
I might. There's nothing in canon, but I may have an explanation for this. So you're right. Yeah. Sabine just gave it to her in Rebels, and she took it. And at that point, Bo-Katan was worthy to rule Mandalore, and everybody agreed. You know, as soon as she held it up, everybody bowed down. They accepted it, and you know, she was accepted as their leader. We know from this episode that Mandalore is now glass. It's been devastated. It's been decimated. There's nothing left of Mandalore. So something had to have happened under Bo-Katan's rule that caused her to lose that dark saber. And I don't think her people are going to just accept her taking it from somebody else twice.
Yeah.
I think the second time she has to do it the right way, or it doesn't mean anything. That's just that's just the way, because I said the same thing. I was like, what? How is she not taking us? BS. What that? And then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, there's got to be more to this.
Yeah. Well, and it was on my list. It's probably to ask you guys, right? Like, is this new? Is this always been true? It's like Elder Wand. You got to win it in battle, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's basically the way it's been.
And that's interesting to me that you say that she accepted it once before, because then to me you explain that by fool me once, you know, and I lost it again to, you know, clearly, you know, shame on me or whatever. So she's gonna make sure it sticks this time. But also it does seem a little bit like are you setting her up now to be like the big bad of season 3 just because like there was a miscommunication at some point? Like,
well, you got to remember too, in Rebels, Maul had it. And then Sabine stole it from him. Okay. You remember? He had it in his cave that said Kenobi on the wall. He had it displayed, and she stole it. So she didn't win it the right way.
Interesting.
So, but she still gave it. So there's this weird kind of quasi rule with it that I think we're gonna get more of an explanation of in season 3.
Yeah. Well, and I'm honestly like
Din Djarin is the ruler of Mandalore at this point. Like, think about it. Like,
technically,
yeah. So
just what you want, a completely disinterested, you know, former member of a cult, you know, in charge of your planet of glass. Like,
yes. Love it.
Yeah,
it's worked before.
I'm sort of annoyed about
that never turns out bad.
You know, I guess I've been watching a lot of like these terrible holiday movies, and there's always like wacky hijinks lead to misunderstandings sort of thing. And this just seemed like something like that. I went back and watched the first scene where she's setting up the plan, and she says, you know, as long as Moff surrenders to me, you know, whatever. Like, I don't care what else happens as long as Moff surrenders to me. And I'm like, be explicit.
Well,
be explicit. Why you need that? Like,
and I think Moff Gideon set that up perfectly. I think he had no intention of,
That's like, exactly why he went to the brig.
He was defeated.
Yeah.
Once he knew he was defeated and he surrendered, he's like, oh, okay. I think the plan was to create some division, try to create some division between the group.
Yeah, he even says like, this will be interesting. So
yeah, and then it was at that point I realized what he was talking about, because I mean the saber flies off and he, you know, puts that Beskar spear at his throat, and then when he says this will be interesting, oh no, oh no. Like,
also, like, how long did Bo-Katan stand up on the bridge just like posing after they killed everybody? She could have been down there. They've got CCTV. You know where everybody is. Like, go down there and get it if you're really that worried about it. So I've got very little empathy for her as a ruler, because
I don't think she's
been more clear. I don't think she's been more decisive, which are both things I want from my leaders. You know,
I don't think she's the hero we all think she is right now.
No.
I think, like, I mean, it's pretty obvious she's got her own agenda at this point.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm ready to see how it goes, man. We have to wait a year. Jesus.
Well, and Melissa, you kind of hinted at it earlier. Those dark troopers coming into, that was horror movie vibe right there.
Totally.
Just,
yeah.
Especially when you see the flamethrower on it, and you see the flames coming out of it around its neck and stuff, and it just turns and looks at him, and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, no, and they just keep smashing, basically. That is
boom, boom.
So,
and and then of course you see the single X-Wing.
We're saved.
One X-Wing. It took me a second it took me like I saw the one X-Wing, like, what X? And Kara's response of, great, a single X-Wing. We're saved.
I thought I thought that was going to be Here Comes the Republic Fleet moment. Like, I thought she was going to say, oh, great, one X-Wing, we're saved. And then, boom, 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 here they are. And then it didn't happen. And then it just lands. And I'm like, and then Kirsty was watching it with me and she goes, so who would be flying one X-Wing?
Right.
And I'm like, no, they're not going to do this.
Yeah, I kept wondering. In my mind, I kept thinking, like, what X-Wing? And then I saw him going through, and Gideon's face when he goes from just like to utter terror. And someone said, it's like, well, do you know who Luke is? And I said, not on Facebook said this, and I thought to myself, not necessarily, but Gideon would have been old enough to have served during the Clone Wars. He probably even served on a Republic. He might have even served in the Republic Navy on a Republic ship.
Knows the name Skywalker.
And knew Jedi.
Yeah.
Right.
And knew what Jedi were capable of.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess.
He knew what Jedi were capable of.
Yeah.
And knew what they could do. And so when he saw that lightsaber, he's like, oh crap.
I'm gonna guess on the second Death Star, there was like posters with their faces on them being like, if you see this person, report it immediatally. Like
sneaking through our hallways for a second.
Right, exactly. Like he looked a little short for a stormtrooper, those sorts of things. Like no.
If you see a stormtrooper 3 inches too short, contact this number.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Like I think they probably know.
Remember, Mark, you brought this up on the very first episode of the season when they were showing that footage of the Death Star exploding. When Cobb Vanth is telling the story, you were talking about that line of dialogue around the bottom of the hologram that says, little does Luke know that the Empire has begun construction, blah, blah, blah. So if they're broadcasting the name Luke and Luke Skywalker out on the HoloNet all the time, I'm sure he knows that Luke is.
Well, at this point, Luke is, with the New Republic in full, full in power now, Luke is the hero of the Republic.
Yeah.
So, that's out there. So everyone would know who Luke Skywalker is.
Yeah. And we talked about this. We talked about this last week and then a little bit just in our own chat about, I mean, Mark, you said this, right? You said Luke was one of the options, for when Jedi is going to train Grogu.
I thought it was a name.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah. I really hoped it was, honestly. And I can tell from the fan reaction that I am in the very, very small minority. But I literally, while I was watching that scene, I was like, okay, one X-Wing. It's like, well, they got lots of X-Wings. They just rent them out maybe to Jedi. And then I was like, oh, he's got a green lightsaber.
It was
all right.
It was
so they want us to think it's Luke, but and then I was like, oh, and then he's got one gloved hand. I'm like, well, they really want us to think it's Luke, but surely it's not going to be Luke.
As soon as they zoomed in on the hilt, I knew. Because seeing his hilt was basically seeing his face. And as soon as you saw that hilt, even you can see enough detail, you're like, that's who it. And I was oh my god, I had my arms jumping.
I love that they gave Luke his badass moment.
Yes.
His
like we've never really seen Luke that it's almost exactly like his dad.
Yeah.
Almost exactly like. And even seeing the way he moved the lightsaber was so much. That looked like Vader to me. That looked like Anakin. Like even the way he did that behind the back thing to get one of the blaster bolts behind him. I'm like, oh, that's like Anakin on Mustafar. Now he was moving like that. I mean, he was just like, and then crushing that last droid. That last like, oh.
I tweeted this out last night, and I'm kind of hoping Mark Hamill sees it. I tweeted it at him. I said, we live in an age now, at a time, we live in a world now where we have seen a live action Luke Skywalker, a live action post Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker, fighting dark troopers, a platoon of dark troopers in live action. I never thought I'd live to see the day. I never thought I'd see it.
Yeah. That's fair. No, and I will admit to being disappointed by Luke in Last Jedi. So like a couple more scenes of Luke, in his prime, in his Return of the Jedi outfit, with that early 80s hairdo. Like I'm not opposed. I just wasn't I'm not interested in it being a crossover here with The Mandalorian. I really liked what we were talking about earlier, where the Mandalorians didn't want to get involved, didn't want to stick around, give me the kid and I'll get out of here, you know, sort of separate life. And now he is right up in it if Grogu is off with Luke.
Yeah.
So.
Well, see, I made the comment to Kirsty too, because I was like, because I was trying to tell her I liked Mandalorian. I don't get me wrong, I still love Mandalorian. But I really liked it when it was just its own thing. It didn't depend on characters that we'd seen before to be great, because it was great on its own.
Yeah.
And I loved how it was completely detached from everything else. And we didn't get a lot of, actually, we didn't get any cameos last season, except for the dark saber. And then even that was like, okay, well, that makes sense because he's a Mandalorian. We're going to see where this goes. But then this season we got Boba Fett, Ahsoka Tano. We got Thrawn name dropped. We got R2. We got Luke. We got all these other characters just like thrown in with season 2. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh, I love it.
But it's different now.
But yeah, it's different now. It's not this small contained story anymore. Now it's starting to dip its toes into this larger. It's taking its first step into a larger world, if you'll excuse the Star Wars pun. But yeah, it's starting to become something even more epic than what it started off as.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and now that you say that, I can almost like justify that as just being how the galaxy far, far away operates, right? Like no matter what backwater moon you're on, you know, you're gonna get sucked in. You're gonna cross with people or whatever.
If you're involved in activities that are important enough to be having a TV show or a movie made about, you're gonna have the A-team showing up at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but I agree with you. But now that when you describe it that way, it actually makes me feel better about it, because it's like, you know, I do want everyone to choose sides again, you know, because of that, we know that's coming, you know, in another couple of decades, I guess. So
well, you know, and I loved how, like, I was kind of iffy thinking about, do I want them to bring in Luke? You know, because Luke is like, it's one thing to bring in like Ahsoka and Boba Fett, because they were kind of like, they were main characters in the Clone Wars, but in the overall, scheme of things, they were kind of secondary characters.
Right.
But bringing in Luke was the main character of the original trilogy. So I actually liked how they did it. Like, they didn't make a big deal about it. He shows up, doesn't even say his name.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
I was expecting him to pull up. It might have been a little bit too much if he would have, I'm here to rescue you.
Aren't you a little short for Jedi? Yeah.
But seeing him when I lost it, when I got emotional with seeing R2.
Yes.
When I heard that little beep and say, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Thank you. No, I have to say, as much as I'm like, about Luke Skywalker, the fact that he comes with R2-D2 made it better for me.
He was like,
R2, stay with tottering down the hallway. I'm like, R2.
He's like, stay with the ship. I'll clear the way. Then you can come with me.
Yeah, he's a real celebrity cameo, in my opinion.
Yes, R2 was, yeah.
Well, and I'm part of this R2, builders group or whatever on Facebook. And people are like immediately spoiling things, but I'd already seen it. But talking about the like bolts that R2 has.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that was.
And they're like very confused. Like, what are those? Is that just
they were there every shot?
Is that just a bad version? Did they use like who's in charge of the droids or whatever? So here's my theory. Those are, you remember in Return of the Jedi where R2 is a bar cart, right? And he's got a little shelf. I think Luke, in his whatever existence he is like, R2 can be a bar cart, and had them permanently installed for serving drinks. That's
my nightstand. Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't there in every shot though, because when you look at the shot where he pulls in his middle foot and he kind of like rocks forward to look down at Grogu, they're gone. They're not there anymore. So, but there's always little details with R2 that changes from scene to scene in Star Wars. It's always some shots he's backwards. It's just one shot where they pick him up to put him in the X-wing. You can see there's no hole in the bottom for his middle foot or anything. Stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm prone to forgive that. I don't but seeing R2, man, I did, because you were already like on the edge because you had just seen Luke like as Billy Badass, and then you saw Din Djarin take his helmet off for Grogu, and then all of a sudden, and he comes around the corner, and you're like, oh,
yeah. I know there's theories
Let's talk about that.
R2 sort of changing Grogu's mind with whatever he says. You know, because Grogu's literally like clinging to Jin's leg, and then R2 comes around the corner and he's like, oh, okay, and like gets ready to like totter off. So maybe they have like a relationship from, you know, episode 2 or 3 or whenever all these things happened. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about, you just mentioned it. Let's talk about that Din Djarin taking off his helmet.
Yes.
That was just, you talk about just a
gut punch.
Yeah. And you also noticed something with the helmet. I don't know if you noticed it, but you heard a little hiss, which means that helmet was pressurized.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
As he takes it off, which is, you know, how he's able to withstand the huge punches from the
You know, I'll say this. I do like, I love the fact that they showed his face in this episode. Knowing now how they were going to end this and how he was going to take the helmet off for Grogu and everything, knowing that now, looking back, I wish they'd have never shown his face in the series before. And I wish this had been the moment where everybody saw it with Grogu. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I get why they did it. I get why he took it off when he did through, you know, those couple times, but I wish we'd have seen it with Grogu.
We didn't talk about that because I think we all realized it after we recorded last week, that in the previous episode, every time he looks at anything, he moves his entire body and his entire head.
Yeah.
Because that's what you would do if you wore a helmet all the time. So even with his helmet off, he would, you know, pivot or look down.
Yeah, I think I sent something about that in the in our chat about that, how he always would turn he would turn his body when he was talking with what's his name in the last episode.
Right.
When he would talk, he would turn his whole body to look at him.
No, that is amazing. That is knowing your character so well. That is such, I respect the actor so much for that. So we just didn't talk about it last week. So I want to drop that in here while it was relevant.
Well, one thing I noticed through this season, as we kind of, you know, as this season, you know, is ending and we kind of look back through the season, that I think they were doing with this season was, and I mentioned this to someone at my job, I think they were preparing us for next season when we wouldn't have Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you notice, he wasn't as front and center as he was last season. Last season, I mean, he was front and center all season long. And it got to the point that was the one knock that people had, was they would jokingly call it the Baby Yoda show.
Right.
And in this one, there was several episodes. In fact, there was a couple episodes where he wasn't there at all.
Yeah.
Like he was not there at all. Nope. And there were several where he might have been there, but he was very much in the background, and you didn't really see him. Maybe one or two quick little scenes, just like, oh yeah, Baby Yoda's here.
Yeah.
So I think they were kind of, you know, preparing us for, okay, next season, you ain't gonna get the cute little green guy.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be something completely different. And I hope we really, honestly, I kind of hope we don't see him next season. And if we do, I hope it's just maybe one quick little episode. Yeah. Maybe
well, Luke
maybe
didn't tell him where he was going with him. Luke didn't tell him where he was going. Nothing. So, I mean, he has nothing to go on to find where he took him.
Yeah.
What do you guys?
And there were so many.
Oh, go ahead, man. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say there was so many callbacks to other episodes, other scenes in movie. You know, you had the hallway scene. Mm-hmm. You had whenever he tells Grogu, "I'll come find you again. I'll come see you again." That was almost exactly what Anakin had told his mom whenever he was leaving to go to the Jedi. I'll come back. I'll come back for you.
Yeah.
And we forgot to mention this. Hearing the Binary Stars theme song, the Binary Suns theme, Luke's theme.
Yes.
That is one of my favorite pieces of music in Star Wars, and hearing that rendition, whatever he took off the HUD, and it's like, okay, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is it's always been Star Wars. It's like, okay, you got me.
I like that they did a good job. When I went back and watched it a second time, I was glad they resisted the temptation to play it any earlier, right? Mm-hmm. to play it when the X-Wing came in, to play it during any scene. So I thought it was good that they were just like, okay, now we can play it.
Yeah, the minute when you see the face when he pulls down back
Right.
What did you think of the CGI?
I get that people want perfection, but I don't know why they expect perfection out of something that hasn't been perfected yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we can't, don't get me, there's some really good deep fakes out there. There's some good CG and it looks really, but we haven't perfected it yet. There's something that we just cannot replicate with the human look. It's the eyes or the lips or something. We just can't even put our fingers on what it is that makes it look so. But
I mean, they're getting better. I mean, this is better than Tarkin.
Good as it could have. It looked better than Tarkin and Leia did in Rogue One.
Yeah. Well, and it was a short enough sequence too, because for me it's all about like
he didn't move a lot.
I'm asked to look at it, that it gets me, and also it has a lot to do. I'm curious. I don't know if you guys know, but like, was it Mark Hamill's face mapped or whatever? Because I have to say it looked a lot better when Samuel L. Jackson did it in Captain Marvel, when he did it. It snapped onto Samuel L. Jackson's face.
Yeah, because they did it for a full movie.
Than it did in Rogue One. It didn't bother me, especially for the length of time that it went on. And if we see Luke again and we see him through like a hologram or a couple of shots here and there, like
I think it'd be easier to pull off with a hologram because then you'd have that added filter over it that would kind of cover up any of the.
Well, and that's what always bothered me about Rogue One is like, we have these things in our canon. Like, why do you keep showing him in real time when you could show just the back of his head while he looks out a window while talking? That happens all the time, or the holograms or those sorts of things. But anyway.
Let me ask you guys this. There's a theory going around. I don't know, maybe you guys might have seen it by now, that in the episode where Din Djarin puts Grogu on the stone and he calls out to the Jedi or whatever, there's a theory going around now that in The Rise of Skywalker, when we see the flashback scene to Luke and Leia training, they both seem to sense something. And Luke, it's enough to distract Luke, for Leia to flip him. And then they both have that look like they're sensing something. There's a theory going around that that's the moment that they sensed Grogu. And the time periods match up. And it looks like it could be a possibility. What do you guys think?
I'll have to go back and watch the scene.
I had to.
I don't remember the moment like that of them sensing something.
Well, it was basically Luke hitting the ground and he lifted the blast shield.
Right.
You saw his face and he was just kind of staring off, breathing, and then it goes to Leia and she lifts hers and she looks like she's like, but that wasn't the intention then,
right?
At the time, but it could be interpreted that way.
We also don't know that wasn't the intention then, right? That they filmed this a year ago and they wrote it, however long before that. Like,
that's true.
But I still don't. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, then let's talk about that. The post-credit scene.
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
Yeah.
What is it with Boba Fett, man?
I love, dude. Look.
For those audio listeners, Brian is holding up.
I have a Boba Fett string doll hanging from my microphone because I'm that guy.
I am fascinated by the fascination with Boba Fett. So I will let you guys just have this topic, but I just have to say that dudes who were born in the 70s and 80s love that. That character's on screen for like 5 minutes in the original
trilogy. He gets
trilogy.
a chance at redemption now, Melissa, because he got taken out by not just one, but two blind guys with sticks in the canon so far. He got taken out by Han Solo at the pit of Carkoon, and then in the comics, Luke Skywalker, who just been blinded by a flash grenade by Boba Fett, still took him out with a lightsaber. And Luke didn't even know what the hell he was doing with the thing at the time. So he's been taken out by two blind guys now on the same team within 3 years of each other. It's time for some redemption, man. Bring on the Fett.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to.
I love
get that out, man. I'm good.
I don't understand it. I want to know why. So please tell me, Mark.
Yeah,
he was always so underrated as far as for me with just the films, but this season of Mandalorian completely redeemed him in my eyes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was always that character. Like for the longest time, I never got the love that fans had for him. I'm just kind of like, okay, he had 5 lines of dialogue in the original trilogy, one of which is the Wilhelm scream. And this one is like, okay, now I get it. Yeah. Now I understand why he's. And I don't know if you've seen the meme where they're talking about they should team up. And he's like, no, I got my own thing. And he says, we can call ourselves the Mando Bros.
The Mando Bros.
I'm in.
Yeah.
What's funny is it was good timing for Boba because I just finished, from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back, the 40 short stories for Empire. And there's a Boba Fett story in there. And it's when Vader is telling them, no disintegrations. And it even says in there at one point, he's like, oh, yeah, you blow one guy up and then nobody forgets about it. It says it right in the book like that. But it shows how smart he is, because the other bounty hunters want to team up with him. They're all hanging out in the hangar bay after they get their assignment, and they're like, why don't we work together again? Like old times, like Bosca's talking to him, and because, they team up in Clone Wars. And he's like, why don't we work like the old times? And Bubba's like, yeah, sure. Let's get on the ships. I'll send you the coordinates. I know exactly where Han's going. And so they get on their ships, and Boba sends them all bogus coordinates and then jumps into hyperspace and stops, and they all take off. And he comes around in hyperspace, jumps back to the Executor, fakes a hydraulic leak so he can reboard the Executor on his life support system, and then abandons his ship, makes his ship look like it's been abandoned, so it gets thrown out with the rest of the trash, where he goes and chases down Han Solo. This guy's a genius. Like, he is absolutely genius.
Yeah. Although I do have to ask one question. What is it about like certain places in space? Because Boba doesn't, he still looks good, but he looks a lot old. It looks pretty old for being like supposed to be like 40 in the movie.
Yeah, because how old would he be now? Because you're right. I thought the same thing.
He'd be Han's age.
He was like 10, right? 9 or 10.
Right.
In Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
So you're looking at another 3 years. You're looking at 21 years to A New Hope. So he'd have been like 20s. What? It would be 30. We'll say he would be 30 then. At A New Hope, then 34. This is 5 years. So he's 39 years old.
And life in a Sarlacc pit it ages.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Because he's only 39.
And that's what I'm excited about. If we're getting a Boba Fett show, I want, because I said it, I know, in previous episodes, and I didn't think I'd actually get it, but I want the like sitting around telling war stories about the Sarlacc pit. And what I really want is, I just recently watched Pirates of the Caribbean again, and I want it to be a Jack Sparrow story. So I want him to have been in there for like 3 days drinking rum, but like it got turned into this whole thing, and everyone tells a story about, roping sea turtles and how we got out and all of these things. And I want it to be as like, yeah, I didn't really fall all the way in, and then you guys left, so I just climbed out. Or, it's like something very not dramatic.
In Legends, this isn't canon anymore, but in Legends, he was in there for months. He was inside the Sarlacc for months. And then, I don't remember how I think it was the spirits of the people who had been eaten by the Sarlacc were trying to help him or something, and they caused his jetpack to explode and caused him to be able to escape. But then he came back like a year later and killed the Sarlacc. That was in Legends. So I want to see how he does it in canon, because I think it'd be cool if it was just him sitting around, and Fennec be like, so how'd you get out of the Sarlacc? And he's like, well, it wasn't easy. And then you see flashback scenes and he's telling the story of how it happened. And I have this in my head how it'd be so cool.
I want that real bad. So now I'm glad, because at first I was like, why does he go back to Tatooine? I felt like Finn, right? Like, why does everyone want to go to Jakku? Why does everyone go back to Tatooine? Why would you want to rule over that like smelly, dirty ass underground, place?
Well, criminal empire. He's head of. Well, if you think about it, Jabba's criminal empire was pretty big. I mean, it was a pretty big and important, organization. So to take control of that would be a pretty big deal. But I just love, and I do have a question. There's one thing I might be kind of worried, because Fett's already getting the little dad bod there, and with him being on that throne, we saw what happened to Bib Fortuna. Is this
Quarantine was not kind to him?
No,
I'm sorry, I keep going back to that. Boba.
That was really, to me that seemed odd, because Jabba was big, but like huts are big, right? That's like part of them. Like, I know when they put him back in the special releases or whatever, it's clear that he's more active before he gets the palace or whatever, but it just seems like an odd thing to like say about the character.
I about had a heart attack because I wouldn't even have known about the end credits scene. Had some of my other podcast hosts mentioned it, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So we're taking a page out of Marvel's book. Cool.
Right.
And then as soon as it popped up with the twin sons, because my first thought was, because they said there's a scene and announcement, and I was like, okay, cool. And then after coming off the high of Luke Skywalker, I'm like, they're gonna announce a Luke Skywalker series, because that's exactly what I thought they were gonna do. And then it popped up twin sons. I'm like, it's starting on Tatooine. That's exactly what they're doing. And then as it panned over, it showed Jabba's palace, and I went, oh. Just, oh my God. Just them walking.
And I love that yeah. I love that Boba didn't even respond whenever just say a word, he was bang, and then just kicked him out of the way, just like
then he grabs
trash,
the bottle of like blue liquor and just sits next to
him. And the way he's just sitting in that chair, just like
first she frees the slave girl, then she goes and gets herself a drink. I like her priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also, my husband pointed out, she like the first thing that Fennec does when she walks in there is stand over the like Rancor pit trap door.
Yeah, no.
Like that.
But that thing's dead though. Remember, there's no Rancor anymore.
There's not that Rancor anymore.
Yeah.
But you know.
That's true. Yeah.
But I do wonder, and I'm guessing we're gonna get this in Book of Boba Fett. But like, how long is Fennec beholden to Boba? You know, like, does he just get to say he lets her free at some point? Is she there of her own free will yet? Like, what? I have questions.
I have no idea.
So.
I think she's more. I think she's with him now because she wants to be. I don't think it's something that, you know, like a life debt or anything like that. I think it's.
No.
I mean, I think it's kind of along the lines of a life. I think it's like one of those unspoken life debts, and I think it's because she wants to be with him now. Not be with him, but you know, but to be there with him.
I hope that's true, because I definitely in the first episode where they pop back up or whatever, I was definitely like, okay, at what point does he just be like, okay, you don't have to be here, but you can be here? And I kind of wanted that moment, but we'll get it in Book of Boba Fett, or I'll stop reading too much into it or whatever. I trust Ming-Na not to play like a character who's got creepy things going on with her. So
one thing I would like to see in the Book of Boba Fett, a character I would like to see pop up, and I think if it's going to be a show about kind of the criminal underground type of a thing, I would love to see, there's a Legends character I would love to see pop up, Talon Card.
Yes.
And that would be a perfect opportunity for him to show up in a Boba Fett, an episode like that, for him to, because in the old Legends canon, it was Card that took over Jabba's empire, took over Jabba's organization. And so having him show up as like the head of another, and maybe he could be the one that took over what was Maul's organization?
Oh, Crimson Dawn.
Maybe they could have that he took over Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
So having Talon Card show up, and if you have Talon Card, there's always the possibility you could have Mara Jade show up, because they kind of went together for a while, and there's so many ways they could take it. And we have a year to wait until The Mandalorian and a year to wait till the Book of Fett.
We got a lot of stuff though. We got Bad Batch coming out in March. We've got, I mean, there's so much stuff. Oh, Melissa, I was going to ask you, how far are you on Clone Wars?
I'm like at the end of the first season. I am woefully behind.
Okay. I shouldn't have said what I said earlier about the bounty hunters then.
No. It's my own fault. The statute of limitations has long since expired.
Fair enough.
On a Mandalorian podcast, for goodness sakes, like, it's fine. And I'm about to go out to sea for 2 months, and I'm hoping that someone will have, the files or the DVDs or whatever, and I can catch up, because I'm woefully behind. And sounds like there's so much stuff there.
There's so many characters that could show up, not only Hondo.
Yes.
Now I have a
Hondo showing up.
Johnny Depp playing Hondo.
Oh, that would be perfect.
That would be perfect, right?
I know that name.
Oh,
Hondo Anaka.
Just knowing you haven't met Hondo yet.
You haven't got that far yet. Oh my God, he's one of the greatest.
Hondo is awesome.
Greatest characters of all time.
And once you see him, you'll understand why we're saying Johnny Depp to play him, because he is the Star Wars equivalent of Jack Sparrow.
Yes, there's one episode.
He is the Star Wars. He is the Star Wars equivalent of Jack Sparrow.
There's an episode where Ahsoka is stuck on a planet. Was it Onderon? I think it was the Onderon stuff. But anyway, she's stuck on the planet, and the Republic's not willing to help because Onderon's doing its own thing, and the Republic doesn't want to step in. And she gets a message out to Obi-Wan and Anakin, and they're like, "We can't help you. There's nothing we can do." And then after the message, Anakin's like, "There's something we could do. We don't have to send help." So they send Hondo and a bunch of his pirates to go drop off weapons. And as they're standing there, Ahsoka's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, your Jedi Master Anakin Skywalker sent me," or something like that. And a blaster bolt flies past his face. He's like, "Oh, look at the time!" And he turns around and walks back off the ship.
My favorite Hondo scene. My favorite Hondo scene was actually in Rebels, where they're going there. Like, he's like, we can split the profits 50-50. He's like, you're so funny. Yeah, you're so funny. 50-50. Oh, yes.
There's a scene also in Rebels where where his little buddy, the Ugnaught, gets thrown and is flying through the air. And he's like, "Oh, they do fly." As he's going over. Yeah.
Well,
I love Hondo and Naka. Love Hondo.
I have a question. Yeah. Does Ahsoka know that Luke Skywalker even exists?
I don't know. I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Have you seen that cartoon? Someone drew a little cartoon. It was a fan thing, but it was Ahsoka meeting Luke.
Aww.
And she's looking at him and says, "You have your dad's eye." Telling me, he's like, you have your dad's eyes.
You have your dad's hand.
And
Sorry.
What's that? Oh yeah, your dad's hand. Yeah.
That's nice.
Funny. But it was really cool. It was really cool the way they did it, the way this person did it, because Luke tells me, he's like, "I wish you could have known him." Saying, "I wish you could have known Anakin." And then he says, "I did." I wish you could have met him. He says, "I did." At the end, he came back. And Ahsoka's like, "He came back." And the end of it is her on her knees just crying, saying, "He came back. He came back."
Aww.
I'm like, oh,
feelings.
In the heart.
Just twist the dagger a little
more.
Because,
and she didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't know that Anakin came back.
I hope we get Ahsoka and Luke.
Yeah.
At some point, because that's there's these several scenes that fans keep talking about over the years that they want to see, and then Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau go and freaking do it for us. You know what I mean? And I think seeing Ahsoka and Luke, because I mean they were 3 episodes apart from each other, 4 episodes apart from each other. Mm-hmm. There's a possibility you could see this. I mean, because think about it. They said this Rangers of the New Republic show and Ahsoka and Mandalorian were all going to be happening concurrently, and they were all going to cross over into one big event at the end, right? And if the Ahsoka series is her going to find Ezra and Thrawn, which I think a lot of people are pretty convinced that's what that story is going to be, and whatever Rangers of the New Republic is going to be, if they all cross over, Thrawn could be the big baddie. I see Luke coming out. I see them pulling out the big dogs and saying, "We need a Jedi. Bring him."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that brings the question that we've been asking off and on throughout this season. Who, now that it looks like now that Gideon is out of the picture and most likely going to a New Republic prison,
right?
Who is going to be the big baddie of next season for the Mandalorian? If Thrawn is going to be the big baddie for the Ahsoka series, it looks like more than likely going to be. Who is going to be the big villain? Are they going to create someone new? I mean, I kind of hope they do. I hope they don't,
They could,
bring in someone. Could we start seeing the rise of the First Order, the early days of the First Order?
Remember, like I said earlier, we haven't had that tank thing answered yet with the clone.
Right. Yeah. Him deciding to, because that's. I mean, clearly, so Kara's still around. We assume Kara's going to take Moff Gideon and the Doctor probably, right, to the New Republic. She's already gone legit, right? She's going to get sucked back in. Maybe she'll suck him in on I need some backup on a couple missions, and that'll introduce him.
Yeah. What's looking like she's going to be.
Yeah, I assume they're setting up Bo-Katan as a baddie for season 3 because she wants that she wants that dark saber, and she not wants to win it from him. But like that seems boring to me. So I hope they just do that in one episode or something.
Yeah. Well, Bo-Katan has been a villain, quote unquote villain before, because if you remember in Clone Wars, she was part of Death Watch.
Right.
Okay.
So she's been a villain before. She's been a bad guy before. How dare she have the
audacity to say Din Djarin was part of Death Watch then?
Yeah, she seemed real.
I know.
She was rude about that. Hypocrite. Rude.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. No, I don't know, but I like the idea of getting sort of pulled back into New Republic, and you know, we know from Cassian, I guess that's the, you know, original trilogy, but you know, there are those people who have to do the hard jobs, you know, who don't feel good about it at night necessarily, but know that has to be done. And like, you know, Cassian, you know, the series Andor doing that, you know, before episode 4, and you know, the Mandalorian started turning into that for a season before episode 7. I'm comfortable with that. So
yeah. Well, it looks like Cara is going to be probably heavily involved with the Rangers series. That's going to be like her thing.
That's
so
what the
like all the different
probably.
Yeah, they're going to be all involved. I'm thinking it's going to be more like a special forces type of a thing, kind of like A-Team in space.
Think about everybody we're going to see in that. I mean, they're saying New Republic, so that's all encasing. You're going to see. I mean, we've seen Luke now. We're probably going to see Leia. Probably going to see Han and Chewie in the Falcon at some point. Cal Kestis could still pop up if he's still alive. We're probably going to get Mon Mothma. Harrison Dula could pop up in Rangers of the New Republic. I mean, there's so much potential now. Doing this Luke Skywalker thing just opened this entire box of possibilities now that they can do. And I'm not putting anything past it. I'm not going to be surprised ever again. Never again. I just.
Brian. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll call you in 3 weeks when you're surprised by something new.
Fair enough.
I just want to say, since we're sort of wrapping up, that other than the concept art, I missed the concept art during the end credits because I love that, and I use it for our thumbnail. So now I have to figure out what else to use. But also, I feel like we were missing, and I wonder if they shot it and just cut the like 12 seconds out for time. But like, I want to know if Cara, I want to know if Fennec, I want to know if those other Mandalorians were looking at his face, right? When he takes off the helmet for Grogu, all of them would have been like, you know, like, this is a big moment. I want to see what he looks like under that mask too. Or maybe they all turned around as a like respect thing. Either way, I want to know, and I wanted to have seen that. And I was sort of disappointed that we were just staring. I mean, I'm never upset when I'm staring at Pedro Pascal, but like, I was a little upset they didn't cut away and show us which one those characters had done, because I could see it going either way.
Well, and it didn't look like he put his helmet back on right away. It looked like he kept it off.
Right.
He set it down. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned, I think I said it in the last episode. I thought they were doing this thing where he was starting to get to the point where he was starting to see maybe he didn't need to wear it all the time.
Right.
You know, and he freaking flat stripped that sucker off. And so maybe we'll get a season of Mandalorian where he doesn't have the helmet.
That's an interesting point. You're right. He didn't put it back on. I mean, we don't get more with him after that, but like, maybe he just doesn't put it back on. Maybe he just carries it under his arm to whatever ship he's going to go to now. The shuttle. I don't know what he's going to end up.
Yeah, I don't know what he's getting.
So maybe a TIE fighter. I don't know. Those don't seem very comfortable. You can't live on a TIE fighter.
No.
So
you can't install carbon freezing technology on a TIE fighter either.
Yeah, that's true. I assume maybe he'll have the shuttle, because they did say, the Mandalorians did say, Bo-Katan said that like they were going to use the light cruiser, you know. Right. So she wanted that out of the equation or whatever. So I'm curious to know in the first episode of next season just what he's flying, you know.
I hope it's the shuttle, and I hope he took the wings off of it and just like put guns on it, like just it's still the body and the nose, but it's just completely like beefed up, terrifying.
I want that now too. That sounds awesome.
That'd be sick. That'd be absolutely sick.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, we had a lot to talk about today. It was a really fun show, and it has been a blast talking with you guys each and every week. Brian, you not as much as probably you would have liked to have talked about, but we understand that you had stuff going on.
I know.
But still, it was fun having you on whenever you were able to be here.
I know the episode I'm most pissed about
talking.
missing. The episode I'm most pissed about missing is the Ahsoka episode.
Yeah,
I didn't get to talk about that one, but it's okay. I mean, now that we have this episode, like everything else, she's like, oh, we don't need to talk about any of that anymore. We can just talk about Luke kicking ass.
As we wrap up, Melissa, why don't you tell the people where they can find you at?
Yeah, I am at Melissa Truth, TRUTH on Twitter. I also am at Star Wars Ologies, OLOGIS. And I'm going to start a new podcast in the new year about sort of the science of Star Wars, a little bit with my co-host, James Floyd, about all of the cool opportunities to talk about science when you watch a Star Wars property. So look for that in March when I get back from being at sea for 2 months.
And Brian, where can people find you?
You guys can find me at the Star Wars Canon Podcast. Actually, I think we just put episode 42 out tonight while we were recording this. I think it was premiering. We were talking about Mandalorian and answering a bunch of mailbag questions. We also had YouTuber Kyle Katarn on with us. He joined us for this episode. So it was definitely a good one. Go check that out. You guys can find me on the Facebook page for the Star Wars Canon Podcast, Twitter at SW Canon Podcast. And we also have a Discord server now, so you guys can join in and be a part of that. Oh, and make sure to download the Star Wars Canon Library mobile app because it'll save your life. I know there's a lot of people talking about reading all of the canon through 2021 and trying to put together a schedule to get through all of it. So good luck because it's taken us 5 years to get through all of it so far. You guys can do it. Awesome, impressive, most impressive, and definitely go download that because it'll save your life.
Yeah. And you can get a link to our show there too.
That's right.
Yeah. You can find me each and every week, except for this week and next week, because we are taking a little holiday break. On the War of the Stars podcast with my host, Ray and Joe. You can also find us on the Facebook page there for War of the Stars. And of course, also next year, you'll be able to check me out every week on, as soon as it gets started, on the, my brain fart, my other show that I'm doing, the Nerdy Observations.
I got you, yeah.
You gotta write yourself a post-it.
It's been a year, man.
Yeah,
it's just blame it on 2020. Just blame it on 2020.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll be able to check me out on Nerdy Observations, and we'll have special guests hosts throughout the week. Bring in different people. But yeah, that's going to be fun, and which. Brian, sometime I need to talk to you because there's a few things I need your help with figuring out how to do some stuff.
Need to stay after class? I'm in trouble.
But anyway, we hope you've enjoyed this ride with us.
I have one last question for you guys. Did the disintegration gun get disintegrated?
I think so.
Yeah. I think so too. It was really underutilized this season, in my opinion. That was one of my very favorite things.
But they're making a Nerf version of it for $150, so you know it's going to be on this shelf.
Yeah, I might need that.
Yeah.
All right. Very important last question. Sorry, Mark. Carry on.
Oh, sorry. It's okay. We hope everyone out there has enjoyed the ride with us.
Yes.
Enjoyed us nerding out about the Mandalorian and Star Wars, and we hope that you guys have a great Christmas, a great holiday season out there, no matter what you celebrate. Hanukkah just passed, so all our Jewish listeners out there, we hope you had a safe and happy Hanukkah. Hope you have a safe and happy Christmas, safe and happy New Year's. And this has been the way. And for the first time, we're going to say this: may the force be with you.
I'm still going to say Dank Farrick.
Dank Farrick.
Or maybe take it off,
Brown Eyes. He's calling Brown Eyes.
Right. Yeah, let's get a drink, Brown Eyes.
Yes.